It's our Supercoppa Italiana final. Defending Serie A champ Inter Milan face Juventus, winners of last campaign's Coppa Italia. It's all going down at the San Siro, and we have a great preview for you. Jimmy Conrad joins the show for the latest squad info, matchups, and much, much more. Supercoppa Italiana final. Qué Golazo begins right now. Everybody, welcome to Qué Golazo. Thank you so much for being part of the family. We're on Twitter, Qué Golazo Pod, Spotify. Leave that 5-star rating. Apple Podcast too. YouTube.com. Help us get closer to 8,000. YouTube.com/Qué Golazo. Jimmy Conrad, it's been a while since it's just me and you. How are you, buddy?
It has been a while, and as I wrote behind me, open up and say Serie A, everybody. We're talking about two Italian clubs, two of the most famous Italian clubs, with all due respect to AC Milan, in this competition. Now, let's do maybe some history first, LME. Yeah, because this competition, the Supercoppa Italiana, started in 1988, and Juventus have won more titles than anybody else. They've won 9. They're going for their 10th, and this is the 10th consecutive time they've been in this final. I don't know if they're going to do it this time around. That's why I'm wearing an Inter jersey. I'm back in the favorites in this. Now, this is the Derby dell'Italia, right? It's a really famous derby in Italy for everybody that doesn't know. This is only the second time that these two teams have faced in the Supercoppa Italiana. The other time was in 2005, and Inter won that one. Will it happen again? It's looking that way, according to this guy. How are you feeling about this one, though? Between two really fun teams to watch.
Well, you got me going on this one. I like it. I always like it when it's historic teams. Obviously, we go back to the good old days, phenomena with Inter Milan, Del Piero with Juventus and all that stuff. And obviously, when you have these two giants of the game facing each other in a meaningful game, because yes, some may say, obviously, it's not, obviously, and I agree, it's not as important as winning Serie A or even winning Coppa Italia or doing well in the Champions League. But there is a certain level of prestige when these two face. And, you know, for the players that have played in the game, for these teams, and of course, at the very fact, to your point, that culturally speaking, it's such a monumental storyline. And by the way, this is a game that you can watch on Paramount Plus.
Yes.
So don't you forget it, baby. If there's only one reason to sign up for Paramount Plus, it's not just to watch old reruns of Keenan and Kel. It's to make sure that you watch the Supercoppa Italiana final, the preview. So, Jimmy, let's do this. We'll begin with some information, by the way. Oh, and it's at 2:30 Eastern on Wednesday. But let's begin with some information regarding both squads. Let's begin with Juventus, because they really are the ones that are probably, relatively speaking, suffering the most, specifically including Federico Chiesa, who's out for the season due to that ACL injury. But there's much more going on. Talk to me about Juventus and how they look as they head up and face Inter Milan in the Supercoppa Italiana.
Well, it's interesting about Juventus. Obviously, Federico Chiesa, as you mentioned, is going to be out for a significant amount of time due to this ACL injury, which could, if Italy do qualify for the World Cup, which is still going to be a tall order at this point because they have to get through Portugal potentially and Cristiano Ronaldo to get there. He might not even be available by the end of the year, which is really sad given what he's done for club and country over the last 12 months. So you have him out. And then to add to that, De Siglio is, he's in. He just scored the match winner against Roma. I got ahead of myself there. But you have De Ligt is going to be out.
Yeah.
Quadrado's out. Bonucci and Danilo are both out. So it looks like Chiellini's going to be coming back, which is good, following some COVID-19 infection. Rugani, I thought, looked pretty good against Roma, even though they did ship 3 goals there. I just don't know how dangerous they're going to be. And Dybala scored a great goal against Roma to level it up 1-1, and I thought was pretty busy, all things considered. But the turning point in that game, and this was after Chiesa got hurt, was they scored 7 goals in 7 minutes. They were down 3-1, and it looked like they were dead in the water. They weren't really creating a lot of opportunities. Roma just fell
apart. Yeah, 3-1, 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
And that's one of those games when you look at it, is this a turning point for Allegri's team? I mean, the way that they celebrated, the way that it not that they wouldn't in that moment, right? It's so awesome when you come back from a 2-goal deficit in anything that you're doing. But it just felt like maybe this is that moment where everybody's like, oh, this is our team. We know that we have the talent to overcome any situation. And I wonder if they can carry that momentum into this game, knowing that they just lost Chiesa, knowing that they got the bad news after the fact that their top player, attacking-wise, is out for a significant amount of time, and definitely they can't rely on him for the rest of the season. I wonder what that impact's going to be. Now, if you remember that this was a competition that Juve won last year under Andrea Pirlo. They also won the Coppa Italia. Those were the 2 trophies. They didn't win the Scudetto.
I watched All or Nothing.
So this is one of the trophies. that they have and want to obviously maintain. But I just feel like Inter don't have any injuries. They are better balanced. The highest scoring team in Serie A, have given up the least amount of goals. They've really got to figure it out under Simone Inzaghi. And I'm just I guess I'm having a hard time knowing where they're going to break down this team, because they're not Roma, Inter Milan. This is a team that is very complete and knows how to, like, that in-game management. When we talk about, can you hold on to a lead? Can you make the plays that kill a game off? Do you have players that understand when it's time to speed it up, when it's time to slow it down? Roma have those players. They're just not making the right decisions consistently, whereas Inter, I think, have shown that and demonstrated it. They actually have more points through 20 games for the first time, like 15 years or something crazy. So they're really got to figure it out under Inzaghi. It's been a nice seamless transition from Antonio Conte. And I know I segued right into Inter Milan there. I'm sure you had a question in between.
Well, yeah,
I just think that Juve do have a lot of work to do, you know?
Yeah, I want to stick with you for one final point, because you make some very good points about, how can, with their personnel, their current personnel, do something against this Inter Milan, which we'll get to in a second with, by the way, their lucky rabbit's foot, which is Simone Inzaghi, who does pretty well in this competition. But before we go there, Jimmy, Juventus, obviously all those absences you mentioned, Chiesa and some others as well that are suspended. I think Cuadrado not being available is massive, just because of he's kind of like a tournament kind of player. He that Colombian sort of South American qualifiers, that way he can, those in-swingers, etc., De Ligt at the back. But talk to me about who are the players that, because I saw in that Roma game, Alvaro Morata suddenly was playing a winger for most of the time as well. And he was doing play. Moise Kean has to step it up as well. Artur Melo. Who are those players? I mean, Dejan Kulusevski, of course. Who are those players that are going to be really needed, aside from your Dybalas, etc.?
Well, first and foremost, let's just start from the back. You need the best of Wojciech Szczesny in goal. Like, if they're going to win anything of consequence, you need your goalkeeper to make a few big saves. Edin Dzeko's in good form. Lautaro Martinez is in good form. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is back. He actually was suspended for the Lazio game. Yeah. He's been very, very good this season since making the move over from AC Milan. So you need Szczesny to be good and very good, because he has shown a couple times this season, especially early on, that he's just given up a couple sloppy goals. So if you got the good Szczesny, you always got a chance. The center back pairing, I don't know who's going to really start for Cuadrado at the right side, especially with Danilo out as well. So I'm curious to see what they do there. If he tends to go, this is Maxi Allegri with a more of an attacking option that can provide that width and give him a little bit more danger going forward, or if they elect to put somebody in that's a little bit more defensive. They could maybe go with a 3 in the back to try to match what Inter's going to line up with. But you got Rugani and Chiellini. They'll probably be your center backs. They just haven't played together in a while, so I'm curious to see how that's going to go. Alexandro will be at left back. Then you got Bentancur, Locatelli, and Rabiot, though I think Weston McKennie will probably start this game. He's been tremendous, I feel like, in the last 5-6 weeks. Just very, very good, very reliable, very consistent, right? So when we talk about, and Heath and I talk about this a lot, if you have a team that has more players playing at a 7 or 8 out of 10, you're probably going to win a lot more of those games. And when you look at it, Juve's done a better job of that. They actually are... They've won 6 out of the last 8 in all their fixtures, and they're unbeaten since November. So they're doing something right. They're being tougher to play against. So that might want to factor into it if you're looking at this from a betting perspective. They might be under 2.5 goals. I don't know if this one's going to be a goal-scoring fest, because I think that Allegri knows that they're not as strong going forward without Chiesa, and they might just not commit as many numbers going forward. Yeah, Bernardeschi, to your point, Morata, Dybala, like all 3 of those guys can win you a game. Now, Bernardeschi, I know it's a bit of a meme sometimes for Juve fans, but there are moments where he shows up and plays, and this could be that moment. So they don't have the worst team ever going out there, but they don't have their strongest team, and I think that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, and to your point, this is Inter Milan, not Roma. They are way more structured. And Inter Milan, who just came off winning 2-1 against Lazio, Alexis Sanchez, to your point earlier before taping, you mentioned how well he played alongside Lautaro Martinez as well. They have that packed midfield with Varela and all those. And they do actually play with 3 at the back most of the time. So talk to me about Inter Milan, who's coming back. They seem to be an almost fully fit squad.
Yeah, fully fit. Lots of options to choose from. The only one that was a bit question mark, and I'm curious to see actually what Inzaghi does here, because Edin Dzeko was self-isolating due to COVID, so he didn't start the Lazio game. He did come on as a sub. So I expect him to start, given, as you mentioned, his relationship with Lautaro. But Alexis Sanchez was very good against Lazio. I'm talking a version of Alexis Sanchez that I maybe haven't seen. And we've seen flashes of it, but consistently very good, making good passes, finding good pockets of space to turn and make a difference, whether running with the ball or unlocking and releasing somebody else, as he did with a goal that I thought should have been called onside, but they called it off when Lautaro was in 1v1. And he just was very busy. And he's hard to mark. When Alexis Sanchez is confident and he's drifting from kind of that second striker spot into places out wide, you have to have your communication on point, and Lazio's defense is terrible. So he actually took advantage of that. So I'm curious, and now we got Çalhanoğlu coming back into the team as well, the options, and now the depth that he has to come off the bench, I just feel like that gives Inzaghi a bit of an advantage in this one too. Now I think their starting 11 is stronger than Juve's, but then when you add the depth that can come off the bench, that's also another plus for Inter
that's the key
in this particular matchup. So you have Handanovic in goal, Skriniar, De Vrij, Bastoni. That's the three we saw against Lazio. That goal they gave up against Lazio, which was a bit sloppy, that was the first goal they'd given up in 5 or 6 straight games. So they're very good and locked in on that side of the ball. Then you have Dumfries, who's been very good to fill in for Hakimi after he left the PSG. Barella, Brozovic, and Çalhanoğlu, I think, will start. And then you got Perisic, I think Lautaro and Dzeko up top. And then I think Alexis Sanchez will ultimately be a super sub, but he's in good form right now, and that's a great super sub to have. This is a really strong team. I don't see Inter giving up this opportunity to win a trophy, especially Inzaghi, right? He wants to win his first final with Inter and to do something with it. And I think that, especially because the game's at the San Siro and not in Turin, Juve Stadium. So I just think Inter's going to have that little bit more to make the difference. I think this game's going to be tight. I think it's going to probably be a 1-goal advantage to Inter, but it should be a good game, and I'm excited to watch it on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, you mentioned Simone Inzaghi. He won it with Lazio 2 years ago. So let's go straight into those predictions then. You mentioned that there'll be goals, but not that many, and Inter should come out victorious. I have my thoughts on what I think is going to happen. You tell me quick. Give me that result. What do you think?
Oh, man, I'm going to go 1-0 to Inter.
Just 1-0. Okay.
Yeah, I failed to see where Juve's really going to have that game breaker. I mean, I guess Dybala, he did score a good goal against Roma. I know you said really quick. I can't help myself. And
I know.
And Jim. there was a derby dell'Italia that happened earlier this season. Dybala did score a late, somewhat controversial penalty to make that 1-1. These two faced off against each other in the Coppa Italia over 2 legs last year, which in the semifinals, which Juve got the best of. And I think Inter will want to make amends, even though it's a different competition. It's still the two teams with a lot of the core players. So I think Inter's going to have enough. And I think the San Siro and having their fans behind them is going to be providing the difference.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be 2-1 to Inter Milan. It's not even about the starters. I think it's to your point that's the most important one, which is the depth of squad and who they have on their bench. And when you look at it, Inter Milan, I mean, Joaquin Correa, Alexis Sanchez, if he doesn't start, Arturo Vidal on his day, Dzeko as well, who didn't even need to start against that Lazio, of course, in that win. That to me is a clear. I think it's Inter Milan 2-1, and that's it. Take your money there. I think it's easy there. We have so many colleagues and friends who are Juventus fans that I think.
Sorry. You know what? I know what? I'll take that apology back, LME. They've won so many trophies over the last 10 years.
Your time is done.
What? I'm tired of their crocodile tears or whatever. Yeah. Inter haven't won this competition, Supercoppa Italiana, since 2010. Just let them have one. It's fine. Seriously. It's fine. They won the Scudetto. Now give them this one. Stop complaining, you man.
I completely agree. Enough with your my $500 jacket doesn't fit and my shiny legs. Stop it. It's Inter Milan all the way, I think, as well. Jimmy Conrad, thank you so much, brother. No, don't forget, everybody, that the Supercoppa Italiana final Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern on Paramount Plus. I know that I said 2:30 before, but that's when the coverage begins. So make sure that you check that out. Final thoughts, Jimmy C, before we say goodbye, before we say arrivederci.
Nah, this is a great competition. This is a great game, and I'm excited to see 2 great teams get after it.
I love it, my man. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the family. We will see you next time, everybody. Enjoy the game. Qué Golazo Pod on Twitter, Apple Podcasts. You know the rest. We'll see you next time.